Bonjour, je m'appelle Eli Hutchinson. Today I will be telling you about the French hero Napoleon Bonaparte. Military general, brilliant strategist, and emperor of a vast French empire, we will be looking into his life, events going on around him, and his impact. Commencez. Begin. Napoleon Bonaparte was born on August 15th, 1769, to Carlo and Letizia Remolino de Bonaparte in Ajaccio, Corsica, which at the time was owned by France, so technically he was a citizen of France. Napoleon's original name was Napoleon Bonaparte. He was the second oldest of 13 children. The oldest was Joseph. Napoleon's father had an opportunist streak, which he would pass on to Napoleon. Napoleon had lots of energy and was bullied at his French school because of his short height and his Corsican accent. He would later go to a French military school, but before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. In the late 18th century, there was civil unrest in France. Ordinary people were starving while high-class people were pampered. Needless to say, ordinary people were outraged that they suffered, while the first estate, the clergy, and the second estate, the nobility, were living the high life. They were also mad that they had to pay all the taxes, which were high at this point. The king, Louis XVI, did little to solve this issue. He was simply a weak ruler, who in fact gave most of his power to his spendthrift wife, Queen Marie Antoinette.
Let them eat cake!
To calm the populace's anger, King Louis called a meeting of the three estates on May 5th, 1789. The third estate, the peasants, decided that the other two classes would have a surefire 2-1 victory and reassembled at a nearby tennis court. They proclaimed that they wanted to have equal rights to the higher classes. This led to the storming of the Bastille, a large fortress that served as a prison. The people made a new government and made a declaration of independence. No sooner had this happened, but a plot to restore Louis to the throne was discovered, and France went to war with many of the invading European countries that supported Louis. Louis XVI was beheaded by a horrible French contraption called the guillotine. This signified the beginning of the next, far bloodier part of the war, the Reign of Terror. After the king was killed, the ruthless Maximilien Robespierre took over. He sentenced many nobles, innocent people, and anyone who spoke out against him to the guillotine. Marie Antoinette was soon sentenced to the same fate as her husband. Napoleon, and the French army by then, proved his military genius when he successfully helped dark soldiers to destroy the royalist port of Toulon. His strategy? Simple. Destroy the main fort, since it was what protected the ships and the port. He was soon highly praised by Robespierre and soon got promoted to brigadier general. He soon paid for his following Robespierre with 10 days in jail. The dictator of France had been arrested by his fearful and greedy associates. Ironic that he had sentenced so many people to their deaths, and now he himself was set up on a date with Madame Guillotine. Luckily for Napoleon, he was not strongly associated with the former ruler and was soon set free. One day he met Josephine de Beauharnais and thought she had money, so he started a relationship with her. After a while, they developed real feelings for each other, and they got married. One day, Napoleon heard that a large mob was going to attack the National Convention. He was appointed to protect it. When the mob would not leave, he ordered his cannons to fire into the mob. The mobsters that survived retreated, and Napoleon famously pronounced that he cleared the streets with a whiff of grape shot. He was later assigned to take Italy, which was controlled by Austria at the time. He was put in command of a beaten-up force that was far outnumbered by the Austrians. His strategy led to the fall of Austrian Italy, and his willingness to lead his troops into battle earned him the nickname the Little Corporal. After Italy fell, he had it looted, stealing even the Mona Lisa, not knowing that one day his portrait would hang in the same museum as it. He later was sent to Egypt, which was controlled by England. He easily took out the Turks that were already there, but later faced a grand army of British soldiers. He was forced to flee, leaving behind many of his soldiers, trapped by the British. When Napoleon returned to France, he was a hero. He used his popularity to overthrow the government. He became first consul for life, and emperor. His government prospered, and people were happy. His government was fixed so that he had absolute power. England did not like this, so they formed a coalition of European countries. Napoleon fought them in the Alps and Germany, leading to a short period of peace. During this time, he sold the Louisiana Territory to the U.S., since he believed he could not hold power over it. He also prepared a large fleet to invade England. Thus, England formed another coalition. Napoleon planned to transport a mass army to England to take it over, but the British Navy destroyed his fleet. After that, Napoleon easily took out the Austrians, Russians, and Prussians that were allied with England, such as at the Battle of Austerlitz in 1805. Napoleon tried to force all the European countries not to import English goods, but that just ended up hurting France, so he allowed British goods to come into France. This led to a disastrous revolution in French-controlled Spain and angered Russian Tsar Alex I. That meant there was going to be more fighting. After that, it all fell apart for Napoleon. He divorced with Josephine since she did not produce him with a son. I will always love you. He remarried to the Austrian princess Mary Louise, who was not very popular among the populace, and was given Napoleon II. Napoleon was losing his strategic abilities, and the English Duke of Wellington was destroying him in Spain. Napoleon thought his Grande Armée could easily defeat the Russians when they attacked him, but the Tsar had other plans. Retreat! After Napoleon took Moscow, the city burned down. The French had no shelter to protect themselves from the harsh Russian winter. He tried to retreat, but lost thousands of men in the process to the winter and Russian snipers. England and their allies hammered Napoleon after this. They were everywhere. Napoleon was only winning costly victories. Napoleon abdicated on April 11th, 1814. He had to say goodbye to his wife and son. He was to be exiled for life on the island of Elba, off the coast of Italy. Louis XVIII became king and was friendly with the British. His exile merely rested Napoleon, gave him back his energy. He made plans for a final roll of the dice. French soldiers were sent to stop him, but ended up joining him instead. Louis was forced to leave, and Napoleon easily retook power. The Allies were preparing for another war, and Napoleon's old nemesis, the Duke of Wellington, along with Prussian General Gebhard von Blücher, were sent from the Netherlands to stop him. Napoleon had no choice but to fight back. He gathered an army and planned to destroy the Allies, but the Prussians disengaged. Napoleon faced Wellington's army in the small Belgian town of Waterloo on June 18th. Little did he realize that Blücher's army was just circling around. It looked like Napoleon was winning until the Prussians arrived. After being defeated, Napoleon retreated and once more had to abdicate. His son never ruled over France. The Duke of Wellington became famous, and Napoleon had to spend the rest of his life on the small volcanic island of St. Helena, where on May 5th, 1821, he died. He had fallen sick with arsenic and was given too much medicine. He had written memoirs while he was there and said everything he did for France. Over the years, he became a hero again. His body was brought to Paris to be put in a tomb. Historians still argue over whether he did things for the better or worse, but I can tell you this. In France, he is remembered as his country's greatest hero.